I mean, it's not really an Advent prayer necessarily, but it felt like so appropriate for the season of Advent, like just in terms of preparing our hearts to receive Him more. You know, so it was really, for me, it made Advent extra special. And so I just wanted to, we're still alive, it just made it, extra special. And one funny story is, when I was first telling my wife about the prayer, she was worried that it was going to be like the Litany of Humility. She's like, I don't want to write it if it's like the Litany of Humility.
It's a punch. It's a punch to the gut.
Like if it's going to make me more,
Stop it.
Not that we don't need humility, but it's some of those prayers are the idea of just trust and receiving is so beautiful. One of the things, part of your name is Pia, and that goes to Padre Pio.
That's right.
And so someone had told me there's a special story behind how your parents met that had to do with Padre Pio. You want to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely.
I know you said there's a short version, a long version.
Yeah,
Tell whatever version you want to share.
Sure. So yes, my name is Sister Faustina Maria Pia. Pia is for Padre Pio, and he's a father. He's a father I owe him a lot. So my father grew up here in New York City, but his parents were immigrants from Italy. And so when he was in his mid to early 20s, he said, I want to go back to school to become a doctor, but I want to go back to Italy to study there. So he went to Italy, and he actually was motivated because one of his older brothers, had some mental health issues, and he wanted to find answers to those questions. So it was a beautiful way in the suffering to say, how can I love? And so he went to medical school in Italy, had a few weeks before classes began, and he heard about this holy friar, Padre Pio, who was very elderly at the time. This was the mid-60s, 1966. And he said, I'm going to swing by down there, So he shows up one morning at, 5 a.m. for the morning mass, and he's standing next to, supposedly, yes, definitely, a very beautiful German girl. And he said, gosh, I want to talk to her afterwards. And it was my mom. And so, afterwards, my dad's kind of shy, but he finally sees her by herself. He approaches her. They have a little small talk, conversation. And my mom actually, she wasn't really interested in talking too much with him, but she was looking for a place to stay there in San Giovanni Rotondo in Italy. And my dad, wanting to show her, some affection in a way, said, oh, I'll have a place for you. Like, let me get you a place. And so he gets her to a place, takes care of her, gets her food, all these things. And my mom thinks, oh my gosh, like this man is being so good to me. Like she had asked Padre Pio to help her find lodging, but that was a quick answer to prayers, And so over the next couple of days, they're chatting a little bit back and forth, and my mom has to go all the way back up to Austria. She's living in Germany at the time, in Austria. And he catches a ride with her, stops off in Rome, and they exchange addresses. My mom doesn't think much about it. But my dad is so struck, and he says, oh my goodness, I think this is the woman that I'm going to marry. I think this is her. My mom goes back up to Austria. 2 weeks later, my dad takes out that little address. He visits my mom, borrows a car from a friend, gets stuck in a ditch, has a bachelor party, come get him out. Like, shows up at his mom's house. My mom's house at past midnight. And my mom was shocked to see him, but knew that there was something there. This man was interested in her. Anyways, he goes back to, study and says, can I come back? Can I come back in a couple weeks? But my mom, she hadn't grown up in a stable family. She had grown up just with her mom. Her dad, unfortunately, left the family when she was about 5 years old. And so she wanted to be honest with him and said, look, I think you're a great guy, but I want to tell you, right off the bat, I just found the Lord. She had a big conversion. And I want to give my heart to the Lord. I don't know, what He wants. I'm a religion teacher. I want to teach religion. And I'm happy doing that right now. And my dad listened. He said, that's great, but I would never divide your heart from Jesus' love. Together in Christian marriage, we can help each other love God more. And then also, you don't have to give up teaching religion. You can teach your own children religion, And, just kind of 1, 2, 3, all the things that she was, holding on to, he kind of debunked. And then he said, well, let's see what God has, and he knew it was a lot for her to handle, to kind of have this long-distance relationship without really even knowing each other very well. And so he went back to Padre Pio to go to confession there. This was so heavy on his heart. And Padre Pio, he could read souls. So my dad knew, okay, I'm going to go to confession to Padre Pio, and then I'm going to bring this up and see what he says. And so he goes to confession to Padre Pio. He said, I met, after confession, he says, I met this German girl. She's a good Catholic. Padre Pio cuts him off, and he says, marry her. And I was like, yes. And yet he knew it would be too much to tell my mom right away. Not that she had anything against him, but it was very quick, and they're getting to know each other. But he wrote her a letter, and he says, I can't tell you what Padre Pio said until after we're married. But he said until after we're married. Anyway, so they got to know each other a little bit for the next couple months, and then he said, why don't you come on your next school break down to San Giovanni Rotondo from Austria and meet me there? Like, we haven't seen each other there in a while. So they were both there. And Padre Pio was used to hearing confessions for a number of hours every day, and then after confessions he would go back to the monastery, the kind of cloistered area. So this one afternoon, my dad's waiting in a hallway where he would just walk through. My mom is in another area where all the women were waiting. And Padre Pio would literally just walk through, he'd bless people, he'd swing his rope, his cords around, So right before he walks through, my mom sees one of his friars. In Italy, they do this. Come here, come here. And I was like, no, I'm not leaving my spot. Padre Pio's going to come through. Persistent. So finally, she follows this friar. The same friar goes and gets my dad. My dad follows. And he brings them to the old sacristy of the old church there in the monastery. No one's there. Leaves. And then a few minutes later, the door opens and Padre Pio walks in. And my mom, she didn't have a father, but she had grown in her love for the Lord, and she really felt like Padre Pio had become a father figure to her. She trusted so much of these graces that she had been receiving in this healing love for the Lord through Padre Pio. So when my mom saw Padre Pio come through, she knew that he could read souls, and part of her was scared to look into his eyes, to look at him. But as they both kind of intuitively got on their knees, my mom knew this was the moment. I have to look at him in his eyes. I have to. And she looked up into his eyes, and she felt this deep love, this tender affirmation of her whole being. And as Padre Pio came up to them, he put his hands over their heads and gave them one blessing together. And he walked away. And my mom knew at that moment, a father's blessing, a father's love, and that this is the path that God wanted for them. And so my dad joked, he's like, yeah, that was our engagement. And from there, beautiful, they got married there. Padre Pio gave them a beautiful wedding gift of the patroness of the monastery, Our Lady of Grace, signed it. And I'm the youngest of 8. We all have Padre Pio's middle name, Pio or Pia in our name. And we thank him for his fatherhood, as he's been a father to each of us. So.
Wow.
Awesome. Yeah. It's a really awesome story.
It's beautiful.
For you doing ministry with the Sisters of Life, can you share maybe one ministry highlight, one thing that's sticks out to you as a moment from doing ministry?
Gosh.
It doesn't have to be the greatest moment ever, but just something that speaks to you about what it means to be a sister, like why you love being a sister of life.
Yeah, there's so many moments. I think the things that stand out might be things that surprise somebody, and maybe a father and mother could say the same thing, but I see often that God uses not my strength, like the things that I'm like, yeah, I got this, but oftentimes the beauty and the richness of this life and my love with the Lord is that He uses just my weaknesses and my littleness, but I give it to Him and trust, and He can transform that. So I think of a time even, sitting down with a woman who came to us in crisis, and hearing her story, hearing how different of a life and a childhood she had, and my heart going out and wanting so much more for her, seeing how beautiful she is, how heroic she was, and yet how scared she was, and not knowing if I had the words to say something or what I could say to convey that and to show my love and to what is God going to do and how is He going to prepare a way for her to find a new way into life and living more fully. And the sister that was with me had to, figure out some details to see what we could offer her, like in a practical level. And she looked at me and she said, "Why don't you talk to her about chastity?" And I was like, is she gonna go for that right now? Is that gonna, how is that gonna work? Because I didn't feel like maybe she, would really trust what I had to say, or she would connect with me. But in that moment, I said, "Jesus, you know her heart. And if I love her and I'm just getting to know her, how much more do you love her? You gotta speak to her. Tell her what she's made for, how beautiful she is." And so really, I don't even remember what I was saying, but I was just speaking to, what she deserves, what she desires, and how to live in accord with that, how to recognize, what we can settle for that just isn't right. And in a beautiful way, she totally received it. She totally received it, and she ended up coming to live with our sisters for a time and gave birth to her daughter there with us, and gave her a new start on life.
That's
So
great.
it was beautiful. Yeah.
One of the things I love about being with the sisters is just the love that you have for each other. And just you can see that it's not just these are the people I'm stuck with for the rest of my life, but just there's a real just joy, friendship, and just really just a beautiful sisterhood. And it's really I just wanted to encourage you and thank you for that, just that witness of how you love each other, because it was really uplifting for me even as a layperson just to be there and to see how you give and receive that love among each other. So I asked you kind of some of the same questions I asked Sister Bethany at the end. What when you look at the church today, what gives you the most hope or excitement about what God is doing in the church?
It's so beautiful. There's many things, and I might say something different than you might expect, but I actually see a lot of hope in those who are suffering. I talk to a lot of people, and there's a lot of different types of suffering, but God, He doesn't will, these things that often, hurt us and, can really cause suffering, but He does allow it. And yet, when I talk to people and they're able to recognize Christ in that suffering, to meet Him there and to love Him, we don't know the power that gets released in the church in that way. And I literally can leave conversations, even though there's definite suffering and pain, and I can taste that just from listening and receiving another in that. There's a great hope that Jesus is alive, that Jesus is here and He's with His church, and He is loving the church through these little yeses that are often very hidden, but they're yeses to Him made in the darkness that are bringing life to the church. So it is.
Last question: What if people are watching this? What could people pray for you for?
Personally?
Personally.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that is wow. Well, my biggest desire, I think, is to share with the world the goodness of God. Like, God is so good. He wants so much for us. We're called for greatness, every single one of us. And so that I can be like this live wire of God's love and goodness in the world, that would be awesome.
Like electrocute people with the love of Jesus.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on and just sharing a little bit about your family and yourself. And thank you for being with us and for praying for us and for all the people that here at the SLS conference. Keep us in your prayers, and we'll be praying for you. God bless. Thanks.